Okay, well, happy Wednesday. The teaching tonight, we've been going through the Lamrim Chinmo, and we spent the last 3 weeks on mental afflictions, the primary mental afflictions. And I've only gotten through 3.5. So I was reflecting on today, since I'll be gone next week, is rather than continue on that track, just spend a little time on looking at the causes of these mental afflictions. And by causes, we're talking about what causes them to arise, not that is their origin. And so again, mental afflictions are things that take us out of balance, take our mind out of a centered, peaceful way of being in the world. And when we have these afflictions, whether I'm really angry, I'm out of that balance. If I'm really attached, prideful. So these 6 roots were attachment, anger, pride, ignorance, this afflicted doubt and wrong views. And then from there, it goes to 20 secondary, and then on to, 84,000. But what's important to note, though, is that our mental afflictions are things that we often think are really good. And we've been reflecting on that they're really not very beneficial. And if we think of them as beneficial, it's hard to challenge them, I nurture them, I grow them, I want to grow them, And even my, my difficulties, I cherish those. I've earned these merit badges because I've overcome the suffering. So I hang on to my suffering. And so what we've covered the last few weeks was really starting to notice our afflictions and notice how they take us away from our path of really a meaningful life, of how to really purify our minds, to cultivate virtue and wisdom. And our afflictions really take us out of that potential. And if I take this day, always I remind you that this day will never come again. This day will never come again. Really, point one has to be, what's the meaning of your life and what do you want to do with it? The Buddhist path is based on the idea that this existence that we have, the conditioned existence that we have, is its basis is suffering. Its basis is dissatisfaction. There's all throughout everything that even the things we think will give us happiness are in fact the seeds that create suffering. And if we take the word suffering, we use unsatisfaction, that's a little more accurate. You can even use stress, right? There's a stress, there's a tension. Even if it's something good, we had our mindfulness group Monday, and somebody was talking about something coming up, something good. Well, there's a tension because it's not here yet, How often do people lie to you? And they tell you, one of my favorite lies, I hear it all the time. Boy, I just can't wait till Tuesday. I bet you can. Right? I bet you can. And we say it all the time, though, don't we? I can't wait to see you. I bet you can. But there's a tension. I'm looking forward to it. And as I'm looking forward to it, again, now I'm attached to the affliction of attachment. I'm looking forward to this happening. I'm out of my zone to even be here now. Now's not so good. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. So we don't have the peace of being here, rather than just knowing that I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. That'll be great. If I bring it to my mind now, that's really pleasant, seeing you next week. As a matter of fact, Laura and I are leaving tomorrow morning, and we're going off to my brother's wedding. I'll get to see my daughters and my granddaughters, and I'm looking forward to it. It'll be nice. I'll see some old friends, see my family, But right now I'm here, and this is incredible to be here in the opportunity to be in the Dharma with people on a path, and that time will come, and I can be present with that. So, but so often we don't notice it, and we don't even notice it in the way we speak, and the way we attach to things, and the way that it prevents me from being really happy right now if I'm looking about, something that's going to happen. So first we have to notice it, and that's what we've been looking at. And there's these 6 specific ways. You got to match that 6 root and now 6 specific ways. When they think about what we're talking about, the causes, and by causes they don't mean, as I said, it doesn't mean the root cause of what caused the affliction. What this means is causes the affliction to arise in our current environment. So they would say that of these afflictions, we have afflictions, and they're in our consciousness. Number 1 is we need, I'm going to use the technical term, dependent basis. Sounds very, very technical, dependent basis. And Tibetans call them bakchaks. And we've talked about this many times for those who have been coming to the Dharma Center, is the idea that in our consciousness we have the imprints. We already have the imprints for these afflictions. We've created them previously. So I'm not angry right now, but I have the imprint of anger in my consciousness, right? It's latent. It's there, though. It's not gone. Anger can arise. Happiness can arise. Anticipation can arise. Attachment can arise. Pride can arise. It's not arising right now, but it's there. The seeds are there. So it needs this basis. It needs the bakchak. And they're there in our consciousness. And it's important to note that they are there, but they're there in a way that's sometimes a little bit different than is presented in Western psychology. Anger's there. The seeds of anger are there. But I'm not suppressing any anger. I'm not walking down, holding down anger. It's not here. It's just the seeds there. There needs to be something to catalyze it. There needs to be something to spark it. But it's there, but it's not a solid thing. It's not that I have this bit of anger. I'm an angry person, and I've got this, and I need to deal with it. It's that there's a seed of anger, but it's very malleable and conditional. And sometimes I'm not angry at all. Sometimes I'm quite happy, and other times I can be angry. But I'm experiencing those. But they're latent, and I'm pointing this out because all too often we get really viewing certain aspects of ourselves as being very solid. I'm a really angry person. I'm a very optimistic person. I'm a pessimistic person. I'm this kind. It is who we are. Rather than we just have these imprints. And they're very malleable. I was very much characterized as an extremely pessimistic, shame-based person for a long time in my youth and growing up, and not a happy guy, and certainly not, caused a lot of harm. Now, today, that would not characterize me at all as I show up in my daily experience. Things have changed. I've worked with these imprints. We've purified things. We've changed things. And so it's important to note that these imprints that we experience from time to time, they arise, but they arise in dependence upon something. My view of myself, my view of you, what's happening, all these things. But they're not me. They're an experience I'm having. It'll come and it'll go. And so, a lot of people say that he's a very angry person. Well, anger has arisen in this person maybe more frequently than others in these years, but maybe not when they were a kid, or maybe not before. It's changeable. It's very changeable. So it's important to know that we have these bases. So we have the imprints, and we know we have the imprints because we're here. We're human. All conditioned existence, all of realms that we can experience in conditioned existence is conditioned by karma and karmic imprints. So we have the imprints. It means we're stuck. We're limited. We can't see it all. If we are enlightened, we wouldn't have these imprints. And actually, technically, you could. This goes online, so I better be accurate. Technically, you could become enlightened and still have karmic imprints left over. So even though your mind has seen everything clearly and accurately, it doesn't create any new karma, but you still need to use up the old. So technically, yes, you could. But the point I'm trying to make here is in conditioned existence, our karmic imprints are what keep us conditioned. And so we know we have them. We have the imprints for anger, for happiness, for pride, for jealousy, for envy, for nervousness, for fear. These things are here. But they're not present all the time, and they're present based on certain things. So they arise in a certain way, and that's what these causes are that we're talking about. So number one, we need the dependent basis, the bakchak, the imprint, which we have. We have those. But we'll notice that they'll just be latent unless, things trigger them. So the second thing we want to look at is our environment. See what the word they use. The object stimulating them to arise. We need something to trigger them. And it's fascinating that this just makes sense, right? If I really have a thing for banana splits, I'm just seeing what arose at the moment. Banana splits. Well, that's fine. But when I'm working or I'm doing other things, I'm not really too worried about that. But if I drive by the Red Rock Cafe, which, by the way, has banana splits, I'm aware of that. Hey, there's banana splits. It's going to arise. If I'm around someone that triggers anger in me, that's going to happen. So we need the object. And we know this. It seems to make sense. But often we don't realize the impact that our environment has on increasing all of our attachments, all of our afflictions. And we do it all day long. We just do it all day long. When you look at any Buddhist text, they really talk about if you want some peace, simplify your life. Simplify your life. If we are at Whole Foods, right? At Whole Foods. We have a big Whole Foods here. For those of you online, we've got one up Valley. Well, you'd be amazed how many sudden attachments arise as you're going down the aisles, which you didn't have if you weren't at Whole Foods, right? And then just, if you look at a potato chip aisle at any store, how many different flavors of potato chips are there? It's amazing, right? And we might even find one we really like, but then we'll look at another one we really like. It's just going to increase the affliction of attachment, of hunger, of desire, And so if we go to these environments, we go to them a lot, and the more choice we have, the less satisfaction you have. And that's actually proven in Western psychology. It's just straight up proven. The more choice you have, the less happiness you have. It's just across the board. It's contradictory sometimes to our mind. Well, the more choice I have, the more freedom I have to make choice. But what happens is you start questioning, well, maybe that would have been better. Or maybe this would have been better. If you go and have a menu and there's a lot of items on it, think how long you are trying to just pick what you're going to eat. Versus, here's 5 items. Out in California and into Arizona, even as far as St. George, they have In-N-Out burgers. It's an In-N-Out burger. So I grew up around that. And they have burgers and they have cheeseburgers. And they got fries and they got chocolate shakes. It's pretty straightforward. Oh, they have a double-double. So they have 2, yeah. So you got a burger, a double-double, you got a cheeseburger, you got fries. Pretty straightforward. And everything there, but I'm not doing an In-N-Out commercial. I'm a vegetarian. But you can actually get a grilled cheese. It's a cheeseburger without the patty. It's pretty good, actually. Are you watching Afflictions Arise as we talk about it? So the thing about them, though, is it's a pretty straightforward menu. People don't spend a lot of time on this or that or those things. And it's packed. You could wait. There's drive-thrus that are packed. This place is busy. They never freeze anything. There's no processed food. Again, I don't want to get a commercial. the point I'm trying to make is that they have a very simple menu. It's been very successful. Sometimes you'll notice when it's a real simple thing, you just make a choice. Yeah, what's the thing? One or two. I make it and I move on. My mind doesn't get locked into all the potentials. You go to a place with a lot of choices. Have you watched that in yourself? You just, whoa, what about this? And then if you're with some people, why don't you get that and I'll get this, and then we'll share. We'll try this out. If we simplify our life, you're just going to eliminate a lot of affliction. The more our environment that we have that has more gadgets, more luxury, more options, more choices, the less satisfaction we have. It's really hard to understand because we're so caught up in it. Even like a nice house, and I mean, there's lots of remote things that people have in homes these days, and there's lots of, climate control and just all this stuff that we have. And then we want it to be a certain way. Especially if I have a thermostat at a particular thing. Cars are like that now, right? There's cars, right? You set it and that's the temperature. You don't, yeah. And but then if it's not the temperature, or if it just doesn't work right, or there's this gadget, the mind just keeps going to these things. So these objects in our life, the things that we really think are going to help us, actually continually take us away from a very balanced state of mind. It increases our attachment and mental afflictions around that take us away from why are we here? Why are we here? If our life, if in this life we have a rare and precious human rebirth to become enlightened, to be liberated from all of these mental afflictions, well, that's a pretty cool thing, That's something to spend my time with. How much of my time do I spend increasing all of the worldly concerns and attachment and afflictions to worldly happiness, which takes me away from my time where I would be meditating or cultivating some wisdom in my path and doing my practice. So they always encourage you to simplify. When I was I simplified my life, much more earlier than when I became a monk. But I did notice. I noticed there was a time in my life I tried to, just live like what I thought people live like. So some of you know my story a bit. I mean, I used to live under a bridge. I had a very opportunistic background to have a lot of challenges in my life early on. And I was created a lot of problems in my life, and drugs, alcohol, violence, and all that stuff. That was 30 years ago. And so when I had my path changed to start, making my life meaningful and finding this path 30 years ago, I didn't know really how normal people live, so I wanted to mimic that. Get a job, do a thing, you get a house, you get a car, and so I would do those things. And when we go on vacation, you'd think, well, get a really nice hotel room if you're going on vacation. Get a nice hotel room, and you get a nice hotel room, and it's got all the the extras. But what I did start to notice was that I just slept in the hotel room. And all my money was going to the hotel room, not the vacation. I finally got smarter. I would just do little motel rooms and then spend my money on the vacation, right, and go out and have fun. Because I just slept there. No matter how fancy the place was, it boiled down to it had a bed, it had a bathroom with the shower, and they usually had a desk. Sometimes a little table, right? That same bed, bathroom, desk could be $250 or it could be $50. And it's fascinating how the mind would say, well, I stayed at this really nice hotel, which had a bed and a bathroom and a desk. And So did the motel down the street. And so I'm bringing this up that as you simplify your life, you'll start to notice all of these things that we spent a lot of money, time, and energy and attachment around really don't have much impact on my life. As a matter of fact, it actually leads to less satisfaction because now I need this instead of this. So likewise, whether it's a menu, a simple diet, the houses we live in, whether it's a $12 million house or a $100,000 house. Sometimes the only difference between a $12 million house and a $100,000 house is where it is, right? It's the same house. You take that same house, you put it out in Ohio. Yeah, suddenly it's 100,000. Put it in Aspen, it's 12 million. So we don't really notice it. We just do this stuff, right? We just spend money, time, and energy in these environments. We go to Whole Foods and we just start, getting this thing and that thing and this thing. And what we keep creating is dissatisfaction and attachment instead of inner peace and tranquility and well-being, and forgetting that, the food is here to nourish me. And why is it nourishing my body? It's nourishing my body so I can make the best use of my life, so I can have a clear mind, so I can cultivate my highest potentials. And all this other stuff is distraction and takes me away from it. And so we actually have quite a bit of control in our life of the environment that we don't exercise. There's a lot that we don't have control over, but there's quite a bit that we do. And so here they're saying, really think about the environments that you spend your time in. And are they contributing to your mental afflictions or not? And you'll notice that if you go to really stimulated, high-energy things, it's obviously going to get you a little jacked up. Not necessarily, none of these are bad or good. It's just noticing which one of these environments and what types of environments more profoundly affect my biggest afflictions. So, for example, when I quit drinking and doing that nonsense, I avoided bars, right? It's a natural thing. You don't go to bars. No, less chance of it arising. Likewise, if you're on a diet, right, probably shouldn't be, hanging out the ice cream parlor, right? Just shouldn't be. It's the same thing with our mental afflictions. Is we want to start putting ourselves in environments that are healthy, that are simple in the sense that are just have value and meaning, and actually allow for more satisfaction instead of less. So there's a lot of ways we put ourselves in a lot of environments unnecessarily that actually trigger much more attachment, much more pride, much more sense of self, and separation from others. That I'm different than, and they can be as simple as the grocery store, the things that I do in my time, and how I travel my vacation. The more elaborate I make things. So the key here is to, if you can, simplify your life, and you're going to find a lot more peace. I found that to be true. If you have friends over for a barbecue or a picnic, people show up in their regular pants. Yeah, it's pretty simple. People show up, we have food, people create food that they want to share, and it's nice and it's good. And it doesn't have to be a big elaborate thing. Whereas a lot of times, people can spend a lot of anxious energy over having a dinner party at their house and how things should look. And now I'm caught up in pride and ego and attachment instead of, here's how we live, come on over. Of course, if we didn't have guests at our house, my house would never be clean. So there is a good motivation there. So in that way, it's a healthy opportunity to have people over sometimes. Get all organized. So we have these latent imprints, and they're going to get triggered, and we actually have some degree of leverage over. how they get triggered, and some of the environment that we live in. And so within those stimulus, they've got these. What do we got? 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go with 3, sort of. Well, 2. Let's start with 2. 2 ways that we really put ourselves in poor situations. So one of them is they call it detrimental influences, which is basically usually it's called like wrong friends. We spend a lot of time with people that are not healthy for us, if you're on a Buddhist point of view. And wrong friends don't, sometimes they say bad friends. But it's not that they're bad people. These are people that prevent you from cultivating your path. That's what it is. So, wrong friends in that sense. So, trying to remember. So one of the lamas, can't remember what it was, but there's a story. He says, these wrong friends or evil friends, they're not the evil ones who come in and have horns and they're bad friends, they're going to take advantage of you. Wrong friends are the ones that when you're about to sit down to meditate, show up and say, hey, why don't we go to the movie? Yeah, meditate later. All right? You can meditate later. That's what wrong friends. Wrong friends are how many people in our that we spend time with that their worldview really is taking us away from the path we want to be on. So if it's a Buddhist path, it's really making each day meaningful. It's about cultivating merit and wisdom in all things that we do and looking at life accurately. It's about seeing truth. And our friends, well, we become the environment we're in. All these lamas will tell you, you'll become like your friends. That's just the way it is. My saying is, you hang around the barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut, And likewise, the social groups we're in, and if they're talking about, the newest this or the newest that or this type of business deal or what's really important to them, and we get caught up in that. We get caught up in that in pride and ego. We want our friends to accept us. We get in those conversations, and it keeps taking us away from the practice that we want to do. And I'll tell you what, the practice we want to do takes effort. And it doesn't become successful unless we have some support, some nutrients for it. So that's why a sangha is so important. A sangha is to be around people you can talk to, and we can observe ourselves and say how ridiculous it is that I did this, and somebody says, yeah, it's pretty ridiculous, and how caught up I am in a $250 hotel room, when we're around people that inspire us to do practice, when we're around people that we can talk to about, what's the healthiest way to respond in this situation, when we're around people that have meaning in their life, that's the healthy people to be around. And much of the time, we can wind up in a lot of atmospheres with people, and they're friends, right? They're friends. And this doesn't mean cut off your friends. It means pay attention to how much time you're spending with people. And sometimes you need to withdraw for a bit. And some friends stop serving us. There are some friends you may notice have just stopped serving you, but they've always been your friend. And you can love them and you can accept them. But maybe it's just not the healthiest choice to spend a lot of time with them, because it's taking you from your path. And it doesn't help them. There are times where you can be an example and be with them. But the idea here is that until our mind is strong enough, it's best to really put ourselves in better situations and better environments where we can get strong. Then we can spend time with anybody. But you can't do it right away. It's kind of like, taking an alcoholic to the liquor store. It's like, yeah, a year from now, you can go in. Right? Like I can go around alcohol and all that now, no problem. But 30 years ago, it was a challenge. So I didn't do that. My mind's stronger now. The way I walk in the world is stronger now. So if we really want to make progress in our path and make best use of our life, we want to put ourselves around people that have some shared values, some shared meaning on that path. And do it as much as possible. That's why, like, you'll notice here Wednesday, it's a little juice shot. We're here. I remember what's important. We can talk about what's important. Well, when you leave here, how about having some friends you can talk about what's important and what's meaningful? And, I used to have check-ins with a friend of mine, and we would, go over our check-ins throughout the day about my mental afflictions and his. I just laughed because he was so much better at it than me. God, I sucked. He was really good, but he inspired me. He made me work harder. It's nice to hang out with people who are better at you than those things. He was so mindful. He was so clear. He saw his projections so well. And I would meet with him. We were school teachers back then. And we'd meet in the morning. And he had such wisdom and insight and clarity. And he'd say, so what'd you notice? I'd go, well... Yeah, it was bad. It wasn't clear. It was insightful. I was still pretty new at it. But I was very fortunate that where, I found this path, I was always around very supportive environments of people working on bettering themselves. And it's huge. It makes all the difference in the world. So we want to look at our friends and the people in our lives, and we can actually choose to not be around some people. There's some people you can't choose around, people we work with, people in different situations, and they're good opportunities to work on our mind. But even then, sometimes we put ourselves in situations we don't need to be in. Even around work and stuff. Sometimes we can get a different job. The mindset that says, I should be strong enough to deal with anybody and deal in an unhealthy environment, no, that's not Buddhist. Buddhist says, well, if you can change it, change it. And if you can't, now address it. So nothing wrong with putting yourself in a healthy or nurturing job, And, I recently had a friend telling me about a job that they've stuck with. That's been really painful and challenging and difficult and doesn't make much money. And the reason they're keeping it is because they're looking at their potential career in the future, and they feel that if they change jobs, they won't have the longevity on their resume. So here you are sticking with a job for a year or 2 years that you hate for a year or 2 years, thinking about some future interview where they're looking at a resume. And meantime, they're suffering for 2 years and not making any money. So you can see how our mind plays games with us out of the idea that I want a career, or after college, or when I get this degree, this will happen. So the idea here is that put yourself in nurturing environments. And if you can't, and you need that job, and it's the only job you have, bring your best attitude to it and deal with the afflictions as they arise. But we actually really do have quite a bit of input on a lot of people that we choose to spend time with. And a lot of those friends may be taking us away from our practice. Hey, let's go do this. So another way that they arise is verbal stimuli. Verbal stimuli. So verbal stimuli is not just spoken word. It's written word. It's what we read. It's what we discuss, and it's media. And we really find a lot of opportunities here to take us and arise with mental afflictions. And I think this is really just right with it. When we're watching movies, when we're reading books, when we're having discussions, step back from that and think about how many mental afflictions arise. Pride, attachment, anxiety, fear, excitement, pride, we do that too when we talk about a movie. Yeah, you and I, we talk about a movie, and that movie sucked, and, this guy, he did this movie much better, and, this director, he's really good, and how beneficial is this in my path? Or how much am I dividing and judging and quantifying and evaluating the skills of a director? By the way, I've never been one. And I'm probably not in a position to be a good critic. the things that we read, are we reading things that are going to really help us live a meaningful life? Or is it the latest romance novel? And when we look at even media in terms of songs and music and things, how much of that takes us into attachment and desire? I defy you to find a healthy love song. I'm sure there's one out there. I just haven't found it. I just can't live without you. And they're just very, just all about attachment and desire. There's a country song. It was one I really liked. It was like, I'll leave the light on. Like every light on in the house is on for you. So he's got like the driveway lit. He's got everything in the house. Like every night for like 20 years, just if she's ever coming home. It's a nice gesture, but it's probably an unhealthy way to live your life. Okay, just saying. Might be good to move on. But subconsciously, we just go with this all the time, right? Turn on our favorite music, this distraction, turn on that thing, that distraction. And all of those hours are hours that we are not conscious. We're not even conscious of what we're doing in our life. And it's prevalent. And discussions of form, a lot of us, really like to get in those. And the words we choose, the discussions we get involved with, the songs that we listen to, the media. Media is just this incredible opportunity. How much time do we spend on the computer? I know I spend a ton. And it's really easy to get caught up on that little Facebook video or this little thing, and 3 hours are gone. But I have seen every silly cat video there is, right? And yet, when I'm going to go do 24 minutes of meditation, well, that's an effort, right? That's an effort. 24 minutes? Or, if I do one of my sadhanas or one of those practices. Now that's meaningful and will probably help me get control of my mind, find inner peace and well-being and all that. Cat video is probably not going to do it. But pretty darn easy for me to watch a cat video. I watched one with a guy freeing a big, it was a moose, not an elk. It was a moose caught in a swing set. And this guy had to free him, which is pretty bold. But I digress. So you can see how speaking, how watching a video, how it just takes, literally hours go by without us consciously even being present in our lives. So this is something to be mindful of. We have a day that will never come again. And how are we using it? How are you using our speech? How are you using our discussion? Who are we talking with? Who are we spending time with? Are we spending time with the people we really like to spend time with that are meaningful in our life? Or are we not? Habit is the next one. And this, prevalent. Habits are really the conditions of our life. They are the conditions of our next life. What we water grows. The things we do, the habits that we create, they're just entrenched and they're really hard to change. And I think of it as just roots and vines just strangling me almost, It removes my ability to have choice and free will in my life or my habits. I have this visual. Will sit there consciously thinking, I would really like to be able to do that. And I'm unable to. My mind is just not going to let me. And so our habits are entrenched and they're strong. And we need to be aware of what are the ones that we have that are not helping us. So what are the habits that we have that are not healthy? that are not the way I want to be. And we want to stop watering them. You know, there's so many things that we just do and we reinforce again and again and again that take us away from our practice, that take us away from living a meaningful life. And then one step is noticing that. The second step is don't create any other unhealthy ones. Right? Start noticing this. Stop doing the ones, or stop whining. It's really hard to change an entrenched habit. It's very difficult, but it is doable. Our neuroscience has shown us that neurons that fire together wire together. New neural pathways can be built. The Thoreau quote that I use a lot is the same type of thing. You don't make a path. One walk does not make a path in the forest. To make a path in the forest, you got to walk it again and again. Likewise, one thought will not create a pathway in the mind. We have to think again and again the thoughts that we want to do. And so here is habits need to be, they take effort, and they need to be, in order for habits to take place, we need to be putting some effort in. And so, for example, if I want the habit, in my case, I know that if I don't get up at like 5:30 in the morning and get directly out of bed and get into my practice, it's so much easier for me to just turn over in my bed. And, then, I'll tell myself, later I'll do my meditation, later I'll, But with the effort of knowing that here's a day that will never come, as quickly as I can, when that goes off, my mind, as His Holiness will give the advice, is to start shaping your motivation. I'm awake, I'm alive, I have another opportunity. This day will never come again. I am going to use today to cultivate my highest potentials. With that, I get out of bed and head for the coffee pot, which I have already set up, and it's already warm and made. And I grab that. And I come here at 5:45 in the morning, and I do my practice here. And I'll notice that if I do that, now I'm putting effort in, I have a couple hours here of my own time, well, that sets a tone for the rest of the day. I have a much better chance of being more mindful and do that. If I don't do that, it's amazing how quickly those old habits just creep in. And so I encourage you to every day, as soon as you wake up, call to mind, here's a day that will never come again. Do the preliminary practices, those 4 thoughts that remind you of a rare and precious human rebirth again and again. This opportunity that you have right now for enlightenment, and that this day will never come again. Right? This day will never come again. What's going to be important? What's going to help you at the time of death? The only thing that's going to help you is how you lived your life. It's the karma we're creating. It's the thoughts that we cultivated. And it's the habits we've created that go on to the next life. So if I'm short-tempered now, that ain't going away. But I, in my own life, have been able to change from being really pessimistic and shame-based to pretty optimistic and, a much more loving person today, over time, because we've watered other paths. So one of the beauties of this is around habit is if we don't water it, it doesn't grow. It just doesn't grow. So we really want to think about what are my habits in my day that take me away from the life I want to live. And what are the ones I want to instill? And if we want to instill them, the quicker you get out of bed, if you have one of those Dalai Lama quotes like precious human life, right by your bed, a little reminder, whatever it takes. I've got a friend who has it just on their nightstand. They wake up, they grab it, they see that, it reminds them, here's the day they'll never come again. Now I'm bringing consciousness into my life. And then start thinking about the habits you want to build into your life. So, the habits, I used this quote last week, I think, is, we all want to avoid suffering. We don't like suffering, but we love its causes. We really love the cause of suffering. All these habits and these things that give me a very temporary sense of pleasure, which actually is the source of all my mental suffering. It's those habits. And we like them. We really like them. We want to be healthy and be fit. We don't want to work out. The diets and all that. We don't want to do those things. I want to have a mind that's tame and clear and inner peace, but I don't want to meditate. We want to really think about what are these habits we want to put into our lives. So we want to put some healthy ones. And I want to get to the sixth one, which is inappropriate decisive attention. Very technical name. Inappropriate decisive attention. And this one is just so prevalent. It's just what we do on autopilot. And what it's saying is our mind takes us to unwholesome thoughts or unbeneficial thoughts all the time. So our mind is rarely going over the 100 good things that are going on in our life, right? My attention is going to go to what didn't go right today, what's wrong, what I focus on, or the qualities of another person. All right, I don't like them. They're a liar. They're an idiot. And my mind is focused on that. Now, it's not focused on all the good things that they do. It's only focused on that. So this part of our mind where it's consistently drawn to unwholesome mental focus and desirous activities and what I don't have, and it's just pervasive. So part of that obsessive compulsive delusional mind, the mind's just looking, it's a state of dissatisfaction, and it focuses and it harbors in on my fears and on my anxieties and all these things that haven't happened yet and don't exist anywhere but my mind. And so it's not a mind that is reminding me that a day will never come again, that I have this incredible opportunity, that, there's 200 things going right. It's focused on the should-haves in the world, the could-haves, how it could have been. And it's constantly reifying things that don't exist, certain qualities in people, and it's really projecting qualities onto people, places, and things that don't exist, So, as we mentioned, just those qualities about people, and we do, right? This person's a jerk, right? And we know there are no jerks. There's humans. There's humans. And all of us have done things that are jerky. And all of us have done things that are good. And all of us have done things that are unwholesome. And all of us have lied. And all of us have told the truth. But, we'll pick that one quality and we'll say they're a liar. They're a jerk. They're this. Because they did one thing or two things that I didn't like, that weren't in alignment with my precious values. And I'm sure I could direct the movie much better than Scorsese anyway. Right? My mind will spend time on these things that have no basis, first off, in reality, and second off, are not helpful in the life that I want to participate in. It creates a strong separateness. It doesn't sees me as very solid and really focuses on that wrong view and attentiveness. So, quick summary is the 6, in case those are taking notes. One was dependent basis. These are the bakchaks, the imprints. We have the imprints, and then the object. We need the object. Those objects, we have the influences, wrong friends, wrong people that can be unhealthy in our lives. So we want to put ourselves in good situations. We want to simplify our life. We want to really pay attention to how extravagant or fancy or complicated things actually create more dissatisfaction. Which doesn't mean you can't have a nice thing. It just means be aware of it and enjoy it for what it is and don't get attached to all the qualities of that. My 65 Ford Falcon, which is a 6-cylinder, you could open the hood. I could climb in there. You could just change. You open a hood on a car today. But you know what? Both cars will start. Both cars have, wheels that will get me. The Ford Falcon did not have air conditioning. So that is a difference. But in general, when you look at all these features and gadgets and things and choices and menus and markets and potato chips and flavors and on, all of those qualities and elaborations actually create more suffering. A good glass of water on a hot day tastes pretty good. Any bag of chips when you're hungry is pretty good. Yeah. And yet we'll put a lot of time, energy, anxiety, and stress around this exact dish. Or that choice of what I didn't get on the menu. Let's pay attention to that. Let's simplify. Let's be grateful for what we have. Let's make good choices. And remember that food is here to nourish ourselves. Enjoy it. Have it tasty and healthy and well. Verbal stimulus. So that's really our discussions, what we read, and media. So, and notice how those, sometimes, we talk about right speech in a sort of divisive speech, harsh speech. There's this area of unnecessary speech, of how much do we engage in talk that is just really not necessary and literally takes me away from my peace of mind. I want to talk about so-and-so, I want to talk about what happened to me and how they didn't treat me and let me know, I'll give a quick example. Where I used to live in Long Beach, where I'll be tomorrow if I don't die. There's a little taco stand right down the road. And, I call them the taco Nazis. Because in general, they just aren't very welcoming and polite. Like they take your order. What do you want? It's almost like you're putting them out. And they've got a line out. They've got really good food. So there was there was a Seinfeld where there was the soup Nazi guy, right? Where, if you didn't order right, you didn't get the soup. Everybody wanted the soup. So anyway, I call them the taco Nazis. But, it's like, I'm telling you a story now, and I can just go on storytelling. I can let me tell you about the taco Nazis and, and all this. And really, is this beneficial to anything in our life, And I'm not saying that it wouldn't be either, because there is a room for social conversation that's fun, and it's meaningful. It builds connection with people and creates safe environments. But to know why we're doing it. Or am I just talking to be talking? Or how about I tell you the best restaurant on Kauai? Like, really? Somebody else doesn't think another restaurant's better, or that this restaurant another day wouldn't be. It's just watch what we say and how we're saying it, instead of sharing, I was once there and I had a good experience at this restaurant and you might like it. Best ever. We exaggerate. Which again gets into that of attachment around comparing and making this one just as good. So verbal stimulus, how we talk, the media, the things that we watch. Really, we would say that the imprints on violent movies, on a lot of things, very detrimental. There's constant imprints that are triggered within our mind stream. What we water grows. We see a lot of violence, that's in our mind stream. It's not a passive thing. So habits. Habits, the other thing to pay attention to. And then our mind, what our mind is going to and paying attention to and labeling. Because what we think about, a lot of times we're not aware of it, but we actually take it as truth, right? What we attend to becomes our reality. What I'm seeing and perceiving, I think is pretty true. And it's the most important thing right then. So the ability to actually choose other thoughts is one of the greatest gifts of Dharma. It's the greatest gift of mindfulness, is the ability to choose one thought over another. And you can do that with some practice, with some mind training, with the ability to meditate and be aware that my mind is going to all the negative qualities of something, instead of bringing myself back to truth, which is right now, there's probably no problem right now. It's really hard to find a problem right now. It's also The idea of, we carry in our mind, I need to work on this. I have an anger issue. I need to work on this. I need to work on that. And a lot of times, right now, there's nothing to work on. Like right now, there's nothing to fix in that sense. And there's latent qualities, and there's things to work, a path to put on, and afflictions and imprints to work with. But in this moment, what's there to fix right now? And so that anger issue or this issue or that issue is not a solid thing that's a part of you that you need to go fix. It's an imprint that arises and falls based on a myriad of conditions. If I start changing my conditions, there's less opportunity for that to arise. And that's really the focus here, is start paying attention to putting myself in healthier conditions that don't cause my afflictions to arise. Put myself in environments that are healthy and meaningful so I can create a really strong, clear mind and a practice that's meaningful. And that starts, with our environment, with us, with the Sangha, with what you read, with how you spend our time, and how we engage in conversation. And what habits we're cultivating. And what habits continually take me away from being the person I want to be. So over the next couple weeks, I encourage you to take a little time to think about these causes and try to just, spend some time each day remembering what's important, put yourself in good environments, and watch these afflictions arise and see if you can't put yourself in situations and with people. Get on a buddy program or with people and talk about what's meaningful in your life. 7:03. So next week we'll have a guest speaker, and we have a couple volunteers who will set up stuff here. And so those volunteers, I'll chat with you afterwards so we can show you how it's all set up. And then we'll go ahead and do a dedication. One of these days, I'm going to leave time for questions. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Keep wanting to. So, we've taken some time to cultivate some merit and wisdom. Let's dedicate this for the benefit of all beings. Let us dedicate the virtue and wisdom we have accumulated here today and throughout our lives, both individually and collectively. Dedicate it for the benefit of all beings. May all beings be free of suffering and find lasting happiness. And may we be able to use both the virtue and wisdom accumulated here today and throughout our lives to purify our own minds, to cultivate our own highest potentials, to obtain enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. Thank you all so much. And those of you online as well. I will put the monk schedule in Aspen. I'll post it somewhere on our website. So if you do want to sneak up there this week and participate in some of their activities. And if you haven't seen the new website, wocdharmacenter.org. You can go to the old one and click on Dharma Center. It'll get you there. But WOC, Way of Compassion, dharmacenter.org. So that's the one just for the Buddhist teachings. The other one's the foundation. All right. Be well, stay out of trouble, and have some fun while you're at it. Okay. Thank you.